Hello and welcome to From Seed to Community. I'm Michael Washburn, the Preservation Director at Seed Savers Exchange, and I'll be your host for this session. Now, before we begin, I'd like to acknowledge our community agreements, share them with you. And so we ask that all participants in this conference be respectful, be curious, be patient, speak from your own experiences, try to avoid jargon, be conscious of intent and impact, take space, make space, and take care of self. All right. I'd also like to give a special thanks to UNFI, that's United they are a wholesaler of connecting over 10,000 supplier partners and grocery stores. It's the United Natural Food Incorporated, and they're connecting supply partners and grocery stores and other value-added food retailers while working to drive positive change in the food system. My apologies, UNFI, for that one. So I'm here today with Megy Karydes. Now, Megy is a Chicago-based writer and communications consultant. She's also a master gardener who grows hundreds of tomatoes and pepper seedlings to share with her neighbors and friends. Now, Megy recently authored 50 Ways to More Calm, Less Stress, scientifically proven ways to relieve anxiety and boost your mental health using your 5 senses. Gardening is the first idea covered in this book. Now, today, Megy will be talking about how all it takes is one tiny tomato seed to help build community. In this presentation, Chicago-based writer Megy Karydes reflects on how enriching gardening journey that began during COVID-19 pandemic. And during the first months of lockdown, she stumbled upon a Facebook group offering seeds to neighbors. And those tiny tomato seeds grew more than 24 plants. But even more importantly, introduced her to one of the most generous communities of friends and mentors. Now, this session will help those interested in building a stronger community connection with neighbors by sharing seeds, seedlings, garden supplies, and more. Megy, thank you so much for being here.
Great, thank you. I appreciate it. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and get started. I am not gonna be able to see myself, so if anybody has any questions, feel free to save them towards the end and we can go through them. So I'm going to start with a story because, as Michael had mentioned, part of my experience really started when the COVID lockdown made us all available at home, I guess. And as he had mentioned, I stumbled upon a Facebook group page that offered seeds. And I was excited because I'm like, I've never really grown anything from seed. And I'm embarrassed to say, I actually didn't know I could grow anything from seed. I assumed that most of these seedlings that came into people's gardens were because they were purchased. So when the person who randomly appeared on my Facebook group page offered to share her seeds, I said, what do I have to lose? So I reached out to this random stranger and said, hey, I'd love to come pick up some seeds. And she was hilarious because she's like, well, what do you want? And I almost felt like we were doing a drug deal because I'm like, what do you have? So then she's like, well, I've got peppers and tomatoes and all these different types of seeds. And I'm like, well, I like tomatoes. Let's try some tomatoes. And sure enough, she said, come on by. And I was so excited because I felt so special that this person was going to share her seeds with me. So I walk over, I'm in Chicago and it's cold. So I bundle up, she's 2 miles away from my house. And I walk up and I walk to her front porch and I see my name as well as all these other seedling packets. And I'm like, oh, wait, it's not just me that she's sharing her seeds with. She's sharing them with a bunch of other people. So that was my first clue on this being a much larger thing than just one person, right? So then I brought my seeds home and I'm looking through, I'm like, okay, I don't know what to do with these seeds now. Because again, I had never grown anything from seed. So I go outside, I grab a plastic cup and I scoop up some dirt. And I use that term intentionally because I actually didn't know the difference between dirt and soil. So I scoop up some dirt soil, throw my tomato seeds in there, and nothing happened. And then I was sad. And then a couple of weeks go by after I talked to my mom. She's like, don't give up. They're still working. And sure enough, my little baby seedlings started popping up, and it was so exciting. It was so exciting. And I mentioned this because, as Michael had mentioned earlier, I am the author of a book called 50 Ways to More Calm, Less Stress. It's the world's longest book name, scientifically proven ways to relieve anxiety and boost your mental health using your 5 senses. And I mentioned this book because the impetus for the book actually came as a result of this experience. The first item in this book is gardening. And the second to the last item is community, building community. And that was, again, intentional, because if it wasn't for that tomato seed, I wouldn't have realized what an amazing opportunity we have to build community using seeds. So I share that story to kind of lay the groundwork for the presentation, because I really do believe firmly in the power of growing community using seeds. So as a little bit of an overview of what Michael had shared with my background, I am a master gardener. I actually started my master gardener program during COVID as a result of meeting other people growing in their communities in the Chicagoland area who had recommended, hey, if you're interested in this, go become a master gardener. I'm like, oh, I thought you had to have some sort of a horticultural degree or something like that in order to become a master gardener. I say this only because there are so many opportunities that I didn't even know were available to me because of seeds. So I'm sharing that with you as well. This is my 4th season gardening from seed. And I mention this because I want to show you some photos in the presentation of where I started and where I am today. And as I mentioned, I live in Chicago. We just had our zone changed to 6A. And I am a communications and professional writer. That is my background. So with that in mind, the QR code actually is to my website. So after the presentation, I would love to be in contact with any of you, answer any questions as well. So I leave that there. That's my website address. So feel free to connect with me either on LinkedIn, Facebook, website, whatever. It's got all my socials on there as well. So with that in mind, let's go ahead and get started. All right, so I'm showing you a photo from my garden last year. I grew all of these with the exception of, I think, 3 tomatoes from seed. And again, until I started this, I had no idea that there were even this totally different types of tomatoes. And of course, now we know that there's hundreds, if not maybe more, tomato varieties, different types of tomatoes. So what I do now is I actually collect these seeds from my own garden as well as my friends and neighbors. But I want to show you the variety that I grow in my backyard in Chicago, in an urban environment. I do have a pretty large community, a pretty large backyard. So I maximize it. And I'm going to show you some photos of my yard so you can have an idea of how much I grow back there. But like I said, I really do use every inch that I can to grow vegetables. And then I also supplement it with flowers to encourage those pollinators. So how do you get started building community around seeds? So what I would do is start thinking about what you like to eat. And I say this because one of the things that the random Facebook post lady, her name is Christina, by the way, who has since become a very dear friend of mine, what she asked me was really important. She's like, well, what do you like to eat? And I just kind of threw out like tomatoes and peppers. Well, I don't really eat a lot of hot peppers. But I like to grow them. And what I do is I grow them for others. I don't grow them for myself. So the first thing I would recommend is to make a list of vegetables or flowers you like, because that'll help you determine which seeds to secure and where. So the next step is to secure your seeds, right? There are seed libraries all over the place. Many libraries have them, literal libraries where they have books too. Your friends have them, your neighbors have them. The nice thing about securing your seeds from neighbors, especially local neighbors, is because you know the germination rate for those particular seeds are probably going to be stronger than in other areas because they've already grown in your climate. The other option is to order seed packets and consider sharing them. And I'm going to give you some examples of how to do that in the next couple slides. And finally, I like to share this because I think it's an important resource. A seed starting calendar like Johnny Seeds, and I include the link here, is important because it'll show you, and I'm going to go to the next slide. it'll show you the date that you can start your seeds indoors or to direct sow. And so it's a pretty dynamic, interactive website. So for example, on the very top, it says enter spring frost-free date, including the year. And in Chicago, our last frost-free date was supposed to be April 30th, which was like 3 days ago. So that was our last frost date. And so if you continue on, again, these are just screenshots to show you. If I wanted to grow, for example, I'm going to use tomatoes, which is at the very bottom. To start your seeds, you would have wanted to start them indoors between March 12th and April 2nd. If you wanted to start them indoors in my zone, and in not necessarily my zone, my frost-free date. So I highlighted a couple of things around April and early May, just to give you an idea, actually April, to give you an idea of why this date is important, because this will help you determine the best time period to start your seeds. So if you're securing seeds from other people, if you want to try to start them now indoors, you're a little late with the tomatoes. You can try to, grow them outside, I suppose, but there are certain things that you're going to want to try to get seedlings at this point, not necessarily by seed. So going along, I just wanted to kind of give you that as a resource. The other way you can look at stuff is on the seed packets. So again, this is a new to me packet of seeds that I purchased from Seed Savers Exchange. It's a dragon's egg cucumber. And if you look here, the name is obviously dragon's egg is the nomenclature, but the Cucumis sativus is the Latin name. So the germination date is between 55 to 65 days. This is one of those things that if you want, you can actually seed directly as opposed to buy seed indoors. If I wanted to start them indoors, though, it says, I highlighted, it can be started indoors 2 to 4 weeks before your last frost date. So again, using my date of April 30th, that would bring it around April 15th for 2 weeks. I'm actually going to plant these direct because cucumbers tend to do well in my climate, but I just wanted to show you an example of how to read the packet to make sure that you're giving your seeds the best chance of germination. I'm going to continue on only because I want to be mindful of time. So how do you build community using your seeds and seedlings? So again, we're going back to asking your families and friends what they want, what they'd like to grow, and then tell them what you're going to grow. So in terms of building community, what I've started doing with my own neighbors is asking them, hey, Marissa, what are you planning to grow? And she'll be like, I'm growing cucumbers or, squash, whatever. And then I'm like, I'm growing tomatoes. And so what we've done is kind of coordinate what we're each growing so we can share those seedlings once they become available to actually, put in the soil. The other ways that we can help each other is we share other resources and materials. So for example, I had at that time heating pads and a light box, grow lights, and so she didn't before she started, my neighbor. So I offered her mine after I was done using them so she can actually benefit from that as well. There are so many different ways that we can build community without having to spend more money on some of these resources. There is going to be some sort of an investment if you want to do this a little bit more robustly, but that initial investment becomes less and less as you continue. So I'm going to keep going here. For example, the seed starting mix, I just grabbed this photo, so I'm sorry that it's not something that I took with my own photos, but the core seed starting mix is a great medium to start your seedlings. And the reason for seed starting mix, as opposed to what I stupidly did when I started and just going out and grabbing some from my backyard, is that your seeds need a medium that they can actually, their roots can grow. And so the seed starting mix is like, I want to say like fluffy enough that it's not as dense as what you're going to see out, what you have outside. These are some photos of some seeds that I started last on the left side, middle column, last year. And as you can see, they're starting to grow. There was also some other ones that we can grow in another container. But on the right corner, the top right corner of the screen is actually my friend Marissa's, who is my neighbor, who I mentioned earlier. And I'm excited because what we've done now is we've also created our vacation buddies. So when she went for spring break with her family away, she asked me if I could adopt her, to basically watch her plants, her seeds while she was gone, to make sure that the light went on, that they were watered. And that's exactly what we did. So now we actually have a situation in our community, in our neighborhood, where we do that for each other, which is great because that way you don't have to worry about leaving for a few days and your poor little seedlings die. The bottom corner, right-hand corner, is actually all the seedlings I started from seed last year in my home and I gave away. So when Michael had mentioned that I grow over, 100, that wasn't an exaggeration. This has become a real passion of mine because I really don't want anybody to have to buy seedlings that they can grow. I have the ability to grow them in my home, and this brings me so much joy. It's such a great, beautiful opportunity for my own mental health that I've really embraced this opportunity to connect with my neighbors. So that is them sunbathing, hardening off last year. Another thing I want to point out is, if you can see on the very right side, is a greenhouse. And that is also a greenhouse contraption that another neighbor of mine gifted to me for free. She is an older individual who really doesn't have the time or ability to garden, but she had this beautiful greenhouse. And so she asked if I wanted it. And I jumped at the chance because it's not something that can stay up all year, but it is something that we use about 2 to 3 weeks out of the year. And it is such a great resource for us because now I can bring those plants from my inside of my house outside. Another way you can build community and get to know your neighbors. This is a woman who I never had known about, and she found me, and it's been honestly, and it's actually outside of my backyard right now. We're going to be taking it down this weekend. So after you start your seeds from indoors, you're going to start to notice that they're getting crowded in that cell container. So you pop them up. They need this in order for their roots to continue to grow strong. So as you can see, I showed you this photo. There are 2 different periods. And again, this is from last year. But on the left side, if you can see, I put a little sticker on each of the containers. It has my name, and it also has a type of tomato that is growing in that particular pot. And I put them near the sun, where the natural sunlight's coming through. And in a few, like maybe a couple of weeks, you could see where they grew so high on the right side. You could start to see they need to be outside. At this point, we're just kind of biding some time here. But what happens though after, I'm gonna see if I can keep this going. This is more of my babies outside. This is last year again. This is the greenhouse, by the way, that the woman had gifted to me. You could see that the stickers are on all of the pots. What happens at this point is, in my community, what we've done is offer up our seedlings in a swap. So just like we did a seed swap at the very beginning of the year, which we give each other seeds to start from indoors, we then move on to a seedling swap, because although I have a backyard and I have the space in my home to grow these, not everybody in Chicago or in our community may have that space, that time, the resources, whatever. So this is something that I've started, and I have another 100 in my own backyard right now, literally hardening off as I speak. And we are starting that process this week, offering up what we have available to our community and can gift. And then if it's something that I haven't been able to grow successfully, but I want, then I can ask for someone else for their seedling. And I'll give you an example. For whatever reason, I have no idea why, I cannot grow jalapeno peppers. I don't know why. It's the only hot pepper that I really like to eat, and that we use in our food. But for some reason, no matter, I don't know if it's the seed, I have no idea. Anyway, I have a ton of tomatoes though. So what I do is I offer up my tomatoes and say, hey, if anybody's looking for a specific type of cherry tomatoes or medium-sized tomatoes, these are the varieties that I have. I'm looking for jalapeno peppers. So if anybody has jalapeno peppers, I would love to swap. It's not a one-to-one. I could be like, I'm literally giving, 100 tomatoes and I may end up only needing like a dozen. And that's fine, because my goal is really to get as many people as possible to get these seedlings in their own gardens. So I'm excited about this process. And then other ways that you can build community is also just to see if there's other people who want to come and join you to plant. It could be in a community garden. It could be your own backyard. It's always a fun time whenever people are outside and putting their hands in the soil. And as a fun fact, by the way, there is a bacteria in soil that with direct to soil contact, it increases your dopamine levels. So there is a reason that being outside really does help our own health and well-being, which again, I mentioned in the book. So it's never a waste to be outside. All right, continuing on, and I'm being mindful of time here. I've got 8 more minutes. The other thing that you want to think about is if you don't have a lot of space to grow seeds indoors, there are so many things that we can also grow outdoors, direct sowing. So on the left corner or the left column are a bunch of seeds that beans that I grew by direct sowing. Almost every one of them except the scarlet runners, which again, I purchased from Seed Exchange Seed Exchange last year. All of those are beans that I received as gifts from my neighbors. And I am so excited because look at how pretty they are. They're such pretty colors. And the scarlet runners in particular also put on these really beautiful, showy flowers that last year we had hummingbirds all over. So again, it's not only a beautiful thing to harvest and eat and enjoy, but you also have the beauty of the color in your backyard and attracting wildlife as well. And you can see my little baby bean on the bottom growing from its bean. The other ones are actually garlic, and the top photo, if you've never seen them before, are the scapes for those that are hardneck garlic. So if you direct sow hardneck garlic, you'll get that kind of curly cue at the very top of your garlic that you can clip, which you should clip because you want the energy to go to the actual bulb. And when you clip it, those scapes you can actually use in your cooking as well. It's got that really beautiful, robust garlic taste. So I always kind of look at garlic, especially hardneck garlic, as a twofer. You get 2 harvests in some ways because you get that scape that you can use, and then you also have the bulb when you harvest. And then the other one is potatoes. And again, this is actually from one container. There's so many beautiful potatoes that you want to get from seed, but you also, again, direct sow those. And I'm showing you a photo of one of my colanders, which had over 8 pounds of potatoes last year. So I can't explain to you how exciting it is during harvest time. And again, one of those potato seeds actually was gifted to me by another neighbor across the street. So I say this all because the opportunity to build community around seeds is remarkable. And I really do hope and believe that it can be a wonderful way to get to meet your neighbors and feed your family and your own soul with seeds. So after each season, I really highly recommend, even if you don't have the space to maybe grow, to save your seeds for the next season and for sharing. And it doesn't have to be just for vegetables. There are seeds for flowers, obviously. I have my peppers, my beans, and my tomatoes. And I included a couple of photos of the envelopes, because what I've started to do to help my neighbors grow seeds seedlings from seed is the information that you would find in a packet, a seed packet, just like I showed you earlier with the dragon's egg cucumber, is what I want them to have. So a green zebra, for example, is an indeterminate tomato plant. And I have some information about that particular tomato, as well as a germination time, so it's 75 days, when to consider starting indoors, the size of this particular fruit. And I also include my name and the date that I harvested those seeds. This is important from a germination standpoint. And if anybody has any questions, they can come back to me and ask me. So if you're going to save your seeds, the more information you can provide on those envelopes or wherever you're keeping your seeds, the better, because it'll come in handy, because at the end of the season, you're not going to remember some of these things. So what I've started to do is actually create a library in my on my computer that includes an actual photo of that particular whatever it is that I'm saving the seed. So if it's a flower, like I think that's an allium up there. Yeah, purple allium, or the peppers. So you can see even the size to visualize it, as well as the information. So that way, if I'm sharing it with my neighbors, I can say, hey, I've got these types of tomatoes. Here's an example of what it looks like. And here's the flavor profile. So they can decide whether or not that's something that they even want to consider starting from seed, or when I have the seedling available, to make the seedling available to them. And with that, I'm going to show you a photo of my backyard. As you can see, it's not small, but we do have a lot of space. We have a dog, so the dog has to be out there. So on the left side of this photo is where and you can probably recognize some of the plants. There are tomatoes there are beans, there are garlic, there's onions, zucchini, there's a squash, there's kale, Swiss chard, okra, some herbs. And on the right side and on the back by where the arbor is are mostly where my flowers are. Right in front of the arbor are more zucchini. I'm trying to hedge my bets with the squash borer, so I'm trying to put my squash all over the place. On the railing, I have more herbs, and you can probably see a little bit of the orange flowers at the bottom. Photo on the bottom right is the nasturtium. Yeah, and I have a lemon tree somewhere there that I overwinter. And on the side of my house, which was when we bought it ridiculously overgrown with weeds, during COVID, we ripped out all the weeds, and we now have raised beds in that space. You can't really see them, but there's actually raised beds to the left because we were concerned about the soil. So we actually made raised beds and put organic soil and compost over there. And on behind the arbor, if you could see, there's a black box. That is where our compost bin is located. I think that's about it. And yeah, let's see what my last slide. Oh, and my last slide again is a photo of some of my peppers that I grew last year, and my contact information, my QR code. And if you have any questions, again, please feel free to reach out to me. And I'm excited about this season, this garden season. It's already shaping up. It's a little early, but we're gonna get all our tomatoes in, I think, this weekend. And I think I'm there. I did it with a minute to spare.
Yay! That was fantastic, Megy.
I have to get some water now.
Well, you really packed it in. That was just wonderful. I love the community-based presentation. It just shows in whatever spaces and places you have that you can just do some wonderful things. We got some enthusiasm in the chat over here.
I wish I could see it.
Well, if you switch back over to WebEx with us, and I could
studio chat. Do you have any questions? I can't.
Yes,
see.
I do. Okay. So, are you able to see us on WebEx yet?
I'm on WebEx, but I cannot see the chat at all.
All right, I'm going to throw this one up here.
Okay.
So we've got Heidi K saying, went from not knowing how to grow seeds from being a master gardener, amazing transformation, but hadn't found any viable master gardening programs in Chicago. Where did you learn?
Oh, yes. No, there is a master gardener program in Chicago. It's through the University of Illinois Extension program. And I don't know if I can add it to the chat, but if not,
luckily.
Yeah, be in touch. Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Thank you,
So,
Mindy.
and then, yeah, so that's up there. We got people got your back there. So Mindy took you there. Just a bunch of good comments around. Now here's this one's from Bridget, loves the Master Gardener program. And then we had this one from Lisa. So you've already inspired somebody here in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. I want to know if anybody else would like to start a community program. Got some tomato plants and looking to trade out for some radishes. So
yeah, I think so. This is exactly how it works. It's so exciting. And then here's the other best part is that you don't even know what you don't have. So like when I showed my friend that I was getting dragon's eggs, she's like, oh, I want some of those. It's like you don't even know what's available half the time. So it's very exciting to be able to share those.
That's how it works. And you know, Spencer also loves vacation buddies. And then Lisa's thinking of maybe just staying home and watching them thrive.
Yeah.
So yeah, lots of good. They got other Garlicscape fans out there.
Oh, that's great. Yeah, Garlicscapes do very well, and then you can freeze them, which is not always easy to do with some particular produce. But Garlicscapes, we use them all winter. I mean, we grow a lot of garlic anyway, but yeah. Oh, I love these comments.
Well, and Jenny's wondering if you've checked out your local seed library and supporting those seed libraries around the country.
Jenny, not only have I given seeds, but I also gave a presentation on how to start plants from seed at my local Chicago Public Library branch. So yes, this is exciting, and I hope all of you, if you don't have a seed library at your local library, even maybe suggest they start one.
Yeah, libraries do great jobs, right?
Yeah, that's awesome.
Natalie loves that backyard.
Thank you.
Janine loves that backyard.
Yeah. It's the labor of love, that's for sure.
It's that beautiful space. Well, I tell you what, Megy, I can't thank you enough for joining us. It's just been a pleasure getting to know you and sharing all the wonderful work you're doing in your community. So yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you for making seeds available to us. It's been, I love your catalog, and I look forward to it every, flipping through it every winter when it's gross and not fun in Chicago.
Yeah, that's something we all look forward to, those winter catalogs. So we try to get them out as quick as we can so everybody can get their head out of the snow and start thinking about spring.
Good. Thank you.
So I'll do a final formal closing here. Again, Megy, I'd like to thank you for that wonderful community-based presentation. We just love hearing all about communities. Also, a big thanks to our audience, and a big thanks to United Natural Foods Incorporated for generously sponsoring this full day of presentations. And up next, almost immediately here, we're going to go to Growing an Ancestry Garden with Anita Thompson. So folks, stay tuned, and thank you so much. Megy, take care of yourself.
Have a good one. Thank you. Bye-bye.